All right, let's roll.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show. I'm Nico, and you guys can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Accidental.
And that makes me your producer, KEVO. You can find me at KEVO Really. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so that we know what you want us to cover in the future. But today we are covering the nature of an asterisk. Never has so much weighed so heavily on an asterisk before.
Lord, oh Lord.
I'm actually probably wrong about that, but still, not in the MCU.
Yeah, only in the 1998 Video Music Awards.
And
that was probably for you.
You know, one of the things that I kind of can't get over with this movie is how little of the plot actually came out. And this is like was there a movie between this and Deadpool?
No.
Okay. So
no,
for me,
Cap.
Oh, Cap. Yeah.
Oh, Cap. Sorry. But and the plot of that leaked a month and a half ago.
Well, they leaked the plot of that. The only plot of that movie is Red Hulk is coming, and as soon as you see Red Hulk in the preview, the movie is essentially ruined. It's actually, I'm glad that it's weird how kind of intertwined those two movies are, Thunderbolts and Cap 4.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like I want to start off the bat with saying big spoilers.
Oh, we're gonna spoil everything. We talked at length about our poster that KEVO always does art for each of our broadcasts that we're going to do, and he did some amazing art, but it spoils the whole movie. And my first thing that I said was I know a lot of people who look at our channel, they're not necessarily going to watch everything until they've seen the movie. So we can't spoil it with the title card. But if you're watching, this is your last chance to click away. From here on out, we will be saying what that asterisk is for and everything else there is to say, including post-credit sequences. So go watch it and come back, or hopefully you've seen it and chill.
And okay, so I'm glad that we're already starting with that. There's going to be some spoilers. There's going to be some some realizations, some reveals. But one of the things that I personally found really cool about this movie is something that KEVO found kind of annoying about this movie, but I praised it. If you're going by the poster, you are going to be wrong. There is a main character in this film who's not in the fucking movie. I mean, she is there, and I'm not saying she's not, but there is a character on here who is deeply underrepresented. And she's not a Thunderbolt at all. She's just she's on this, and that's it. That's her whole contribution to the film.
Does anybody know, was that always the intent? Because there had been rumors that what's that?
I do.
Yeah, what is it?
It's one of those things where the writer's strike slowed down production, and when they thought about it, they didn't do this.
Okay.
And there wasn't anything where anyone had been killed, and Nico had made the point to me when I talked about being not really sure how I felt about this death. The movie needed teeth, and that's literally Nico, what the director said. So to your credit, amazing point. They realized it needed something like that.
So they were going to have her in the movie, and then because of the delay of the writer's strike, they killed her.
I guess that I wasn't really as sure about.
Okay.
They might have brought her in because they
I see.
were able
to. She wasn't in the movie at all, and then they decided to have maybe have a fate. But either way, there was a
something
change
about it.
involving
there was a change. Yep.
And I will say, I mean, it goes up there with another really great one is how you kids today won't remember this, but Eric Balfour dying in the first episode of Buffy.
Yeah.
Eric Balfour was kind of a big name at the time, and I mean, he's a bigger name than Nicholas Brendan. He's very teen heartthrobby, and to see him in Buffy, people were like, "Oh, it's the two girls and the two guys, and they're all gonna hang out." And then Eric Balfour immediately dies, and it's like, "Oh, this show doesn't fuck around."
And Joss had wanted him in the credits, but that wasn't something they would do that today. Maybe not really, probably, but maybe. But they would do a better job of hiding it today,
right?
And that's what this was.
I think they do a Lost and skip the credits.
They would do something like that, exactly.
But I mean, this did immediately give, because with the exception of Florence Pugh, John Walker, Ghost, and Taskmaster all have this. Everybody in the room at the time of Taskmaster's death is like the same level of character. So it does feel like, oh, everybody is here to play a part in the story, and then immediately.
You know what's really funny that I saw someone point out? Look who has a gun pointed at Taskmaster's head in this poster.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so funny because the other thing that this poster makes it seem like is they all come together, and they do not come together. Nope. The fact that Red Guardian gets this much is so great. Everybody in this movie was charming. The charm in this film is unfortunately greater than the sum of whole phases of the MCU. But like everybody in this movie just elevated it. And so I give it up for Red Guardian getting this elevated treatment in the poster work. But like, man, you know, for everybody that says these movies are just some posters with some dialogue, no, this one was not. This one was misdirects with some dialogue.
And I mean, I think the more they do team movies like this, I think this probably will not. I'm very excited to take my partner who has been camping and so hasn't seen it yet. I think this is probably not going to be as much for them. I don't think they're going to hate it, but I don't think they're going to love it the way I did. But like, they and I both loved Eternals, which is another I felt really charismatic group cast. I can understand why a lot of people didn't like the movie. It doesn't have to be for everyone. But that was a cast that, like, for the most part, I really vibed with. And I enjoyed kind of seeing them all interact together. I liked what it said about how people make family and how people sort of support and tear each other down as they go through life together. Very different vibe here, but a really good ensemble cast, and it has a lot to say about how you come together with people in an unlikely scenario, how being around other dirtbags when you all have good intentions, you actually can make something better of each other by wanting to do better. I think Marvel really thrives in teams and ensemble casts, and I think we've missed a little bit of that lately. I think the Marvels is a great example because 3 isn't quite enough. I think it's really good for 3, but 3 isn't quite a team, isn't quite an ensemble cast. If it had been 4 or 5, I think maybe the Marvels could have done even more with what it was trying to go for. And this really just nailed it. This group has a special charisma to them.
And can I vibe on that for a second?
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like the end result, actually, I had been leaning over to KEVO the entire film and saying, so this scene reminds me exactly of this scene in Avengers. So this scene reminds me exactly of this scene in Avengers. The number of elevator rides that they use. Yeah. So Valentina is a tough conversation because she's absolutely the worst person in the world. But they make us like her for the first few minutes of the film by putting her in the Tony Stark role. She sits there sassing people about, you don't know what it takes to be a superhero. So we give her internal logical credibility because the last person to do that had internal logical credibility. From there, the idea that she is also the Nick Fury, the convocation of these people to come together in a tight situation where they are then unexpectedly trapped with a god. I mean, the numbers of parallels down to using the same location. This was a love song to everybody longing for Avengers, but they did it through the acrid lens of the Guardians crew. I just really think this, exactly what you said, TK, it did the best Marvel movie for a team in a really long time, and the way it did it best was pulling at all of us wishing for that nostalgia.
One of the things that I love the most about this theory is the way in which it reflects the asterisk of Thunderbolts, and I feel like you're even pointing to the idea, I feel like everything in this movie, like Valentina is an asterisk. She's Nick Fury, but she's also kind of the shady government overlords who are ready to kill the Avengers at a moment's notice when it behooved them. I feel like everything in this movie is one thing but an asterisk. And I think it's so interesting. It feels like what we watched was actually the movie Thunderbolts, whereas the rest of the world is seeing them as the new Avengers. And it sort of reflects the idea of we saw the actual behind the scenes thing as opposed to this stalwart presentation that the world was given. And I love that idea that there's that duality to everything in this story.
And I think, part of the other point is it's the way they managed to do this to give us the Avengers while also saying you are never getting the Avengers back. Because that is ultimately the thing. Look me dead in my eyes, viewing audience. We're never getting the Avengers back. You will never experience the thing that you experienced back in, was it 2009? No, 2012.
2012.
Back in 2012 when you saw the first Avengers movie. That is not a magic that can be recaptured. That is a singular event. Now, don't get me wrong. Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars may be incredible movies. I think they could do some really cool things. I think they could be epically fun. You are insane if you think that what you're going to get is the Avengers. The only thing that can ever do it is something like this that knows all of its references in such a way that it can play and give you the Avengers back in the least Avengers way possible. Yep. This was
another great one. The way that this juxtaposes the Loki going into that gala, plus the way that it harkens back to Avengers 2012. It's putting all of Avengers under glass the way so many people have.
And the metaphor that Bob has no memory. He is literally the audience constantly forgetting what just came before in favor of the bigness of what's coming next.
Yep. We're never, ever, ever getting the Avengers back. And yet, this movie found a way to do both things. It also found a way to give us the Avengers back and to give a lot of, because there is stuff that you can have. The Avengers, for as great as it is and for as much as we all loved it, is not a new story. There are no new stories underneath the sun. It's not even a new film. Everything that it did, Joss Whedon, it's all borrowed from Joss Whedon's own catalog prior to this.
I was about to say, it is a new film because it had only ever been done on TV before.
yeah, exactly. But we had seen iterations of what happened in Avengers before. So Avengers wasn't, new and original either. That's not something you can ever really expect. But the great creators can give you the best that they can give you, and you will vibe with it if everything is right. And that's really, this movie made just so many correct decisions to give what they were able to give what, and I love that you pointed out, we're in Avengers Tower doing stuff. We're in the elevator getting back up there. We're with a god. So much of the stuff, we can give you those story beats again. Sure, absolutely. But step back, it's not the Avengers. Step to a different angle, it's exactly the Avengers. It's always going to be like that.
Well, so think about and I mean this exactly for these people. Think about the first time you, got to nut with another person. After that, everything before that, not the same.
Yeah, exactly.
You outside the first 10 minutes, you're fine.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I think this is trying to point to. You can never have the purity of your pre-adulthood back. Mm-hmm. It's never going to be the Avengers. You're never going to have a pure superhero team ever again. Mm-hmm. The whole thing of there's a bad guy and a worse guy, kind of, I guess, because in that Alan Moore way, there are no superhero stories that aren't secretly just police stories. So,
well, and that's ultimately why I wish we'd had, another half hour. I'm glad we didn't. I don't think it would have made sense. But I walked away just not able to view Valentina as a villain. And that she had a past that Bob could also go into, and that she had a childhood trauma that informed why she was the way that she was. It doesn't excuse anything, but she was somebody who grew up with the hard lesson of there's a bad guy and a worse guy, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not the worst guy and that I stop the worst guy. I don't think she's any worse than Tony or Nick.
I think she is specifically okay with a body count that Tony and Nick would rather avoid. And I hear you.
Yeah.
But she literally says she has little regard for other people's lives because it doesn't suit her business needs. And that is a little too Trumpian not to be villainous for me.
I get you. And I hear that. I do think you are right that there is a body count that she is comfortable with. And I guess my point is, like, I wanted to delve into it more. Also, because she's the only person in that role that's been any good for a hot minute. And I don't blame Samuel L. Jackson for that. He's been given bad material.
Agreed.
But Nick hasn't been around in a way that's starting to be like, well, Valentina might kill people, but Nick sits shit out. Nick sits out very important events and just hangs out in space. Is that any better?
Yeah, I get you.
And, you know, it's a slight bummer because Valentina and Nick have such an... I don't want to say it's not interesting. There's potential in the comics at any given moment. Nobody's written it well in a hot second.
I mean, you got to go back to when Hickman was a baby.
Yeah, but Valentina has the opportunity. I mean, also, we killed Maria Hill. What are we doing here? There's nobody... The spy shield leader from behind the scenes, I'm on your side, but I'm also juggling the congressman. We've lost all of those characters, and it's a really fun character type for Marvel, because the question you ask yourself in every one of these movies is, who the fuck is taking care of this? And it can't be Bucky, because you can't be a U.S. congressman and a superhero.
No, but then why didn't we do that instead is what I was pointing to. Like, why did we do congressman instead of doing exactly what you're saying? Because I don't even have a full problem with congressman.
Yeah.
I like us showing the characters trying to do new things. And
I like it. It's just the movie showed that they can't handle it. Like, I like the concept of it.
Yeah.
What the movie showed is immediately is they have no good way of portraying how you're going to be both a congressman and a superhero.
And they could have solved what you're saying by making it Bucky, and it would have made so much sense with his experience. So why didn't they do that? Yeah, absolutely.
Hold on. What? Actual question. Serious. Yeah. Where did they make it seem like it was not... where did it not work?
In a world where stops doing Congress one day and does
this instead. I want you to look at so many people's Congress voting record and see how often they don't show up.
I'm only backing them up because they say in the story, Valentina is like, you failed after only half a term.
I thought she was saying that she was... I thought she was saying this ended his career.
Yeah, that's I thought that too. My point is, it's not... Everything that you're saying is correct. Like, that congressmen do absolutely just peace out. The point is, the movie just stops addressing it.
Yes,
like,
there's that. Yes,
there's a scene cut where he's a congressman, and then for the rest of he just basically isn't anymore. And the movie is never like, the only thing that gets said is her saying you flopped. But like, there's no
resignation. No,
there's no resignation. The Inquisitor congressman never calls him and goes like,
because he gets to keep being a congress. That is where I'm like, but guys, tell me where the problem is.
But then we don't ever get to see him being a congressman again,
because there's more adventures.
I believe you if he is,
because there's more to come. And
but for a movie to work, for that part of the movie to work, what I would have liked to have seen is like, after the Avengers announcement. Like, and actually, the mid-credit sequence sucked and was a waste of all of our time.
Big waste of time. I think that was originally the post-credits.
And which would have made me rip my seat apart.
It's
a great mid-credit sequence would have been Bucky as a congressman again, being like, I do both.
Yeah.
The fact that we just cut away
got an ad.
Yeah, the fact that we just cut away from him being a congressperson and it basically never comes up again.
Did anybody catch that he wasn't a congressperson in any of those magazine covers that ran?
I did. No. That was part of what I noticed, because I am now like, is he a congressperson or not?
Because my question for you is, where did Valentina do anything legal? Because all I saw was a press agent. I literally didn't see somebody with any executive legal authority.
Yeah.
I saw somebody who just stood in front of a podium, and that's essentially what, as a senator, he did. He helped save the day and organized a group.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think what we're doing is we're saying that because Valentina is simpler, we're okay with more gaps in her story. But I literally didn't see anywhere that Bucky was no longer a senator any more than Valentina no longer is, because she's literally their puppet now. So she's less.
I have no problem with the in-universe logic of what's happening. Yeah. My problem is that the film needed more scenes in it.
Because we both were confused, is all. That's
I just mean that then there's a whole lot of things that need more explanation.
Yeah. That's ultimately, like, it's the blessing and the curse of the film. It was the right length. It should not have been longer, but because it crams so many ideas in, and also because I know we're not really getting more, because we know the schedule that we're getting, and I don't think that Avengers Doomsday is going to have a ton of time to talk about a lot of this stuff. Maybe a little bit, but I don't know how much we're going to get this addressed. It brought up a lot of ideas that, for me, I would have liked some more time with. Both, you know, what we're doing with Valentina, because absolutely, as you said, none of what she did was legal. You know, there's no record of a new Avengers initiative or anything else. So how's she getting away with it? But then also, like, Bucky walked out of work one day and just became a superhero again. Can he do both? I have no problem with the idea that he can do both for so many reasons. I think that's actually really cool. I think Congressman Bucky, who, you know, also does super heroics, is a super cool idea. But unless we see something addressing it, I felt like it was, for me, just a dangling moment.
I want to be clear. Gelman just messaged me and was like, you were coming kind of heated. I did not mean it at all heated. I meant it like, I think it's one of those things where, like, we as an audience lock into the things that make sense to us and look away from the things that we don't. And, like, I was as confused as you guys were, because, like, for me, one of the biggest gaps that is exactly the same as what happened to Bucky's senatorhood. I think for my same value, what happened to everybody's pasts. One of the things that made the Marvel Cinematic Universe have such teeth was the granularity of examining the actions that people like Bucky took in those first few films that would go on to make them villainous, and the amount it took to, like, cross back that barrier and, like, be okay again. And, like, I feel in so many ways that we sometimes, like, as an audience, pick the characters we fill in the gaps for based on the marketing and how they want us to feel. Because, like, I think the biggest thing I ever walked away from the Marvel Cinematic Universe going, wait, what? Was when James Gunn said that he really meant that baseball scene in Guardians 2 like a deeply emotional power climax. It was meant to be very dramatic. And I literally laughed in the theater.
For like Disney score in the background and everything.
Yeah, I literally couldn't unlaugh. And people were like, no, it's beautiful. And I was like, no, it's
on top of a pile of dead bodies. What are you talking about?
It's an abusive man being abusive.
He's
to
tricking
a person.
Get out of there.
Exactly. And it's not beautiful. And choosing to believe it's beautiful is foolish. Because you know it's not. You want the illusion. And like one of the things that, and I'm so glad that we all figured out that we were a little bit confused. And I'm so sorry if I seemed anything other than passionate, because I never meant to be heated. One of the things that I think we do for these movies is like, how can you explain away Yelena's past if you couldn't explain away Natasha's? How can you explain away, Red Guardian's past if the whole point is John Walker is such a hot topic that he's a literal garbage fire? How can you ever explain away Ghost? And like these elements are sort of like why I was trying to explain to my dad recently. He asked me, because he just found out about the Books of Magic and was like, what do you mean that they're basically Harry Potter in the DC universe? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, but like, so does Batman show up? And I'm like, but even if he does, you just have to understand that Batman in a magic story, that's somebody else's story, isn't Batman. So he's going to be a little different. And like, we don't have that beautiful dexterity here that we're all so beholden to make these comic universes work. And I feel like, not that anybody here was doing it, and no one here, everybody here has a beautiful heart when it comes to these things. so much of online, the vitriol is so aimed at like the way the marketing wants us to feel about Yelena not being Natasha, that people just never really give her that chance. And so you can see on Reddit people picking apart the Yelena stories and giving Red Guardian a pass because he's David Gilmour and he's he's not David Gilmour. Wait,
Harbour.
David Harbour. Thank you.
Same type name.
And yeah, so I certainly didn't think anybody here, and I'm so glad that it was pointed out to me that I was coming across any other way than I meant to. But yeah, it is a question that I do have for the bigger picture of how sustainable are these films?
Well, and that's, we're on the same page because that's like my thing is essentially the same thing. It's I wanted more because I have the same questions too, and like for one thing, I want Shield back.
For sure.
I have wanted Shield back for a long time. I really thought, like over a decade ago at this point, I don't even know what the time is anymore. I thought Agents of Shield was ultimately going to get us Shield back in the MCU. And Shield is great because it becomes that organization that you literally need a 2-minute scene for somebody like John Walker to go like, I'm technically okay, everybody hates me, but I'm okay, the rest of you are literal criminals, how can you be the Avengers? And then Valentina, head of S.H.I.E.L.D., shows up and goes, oh, I got you all pardoned, that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. does. End of story. And like that's a lot of, again, those are a lot of the things where it's like, I wanted more scenes up in the tower where they explain what them owning her means, what her position is now. There's so many mechanical things about how vigilantism and superheroics is working in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that it feels a little fragmented right now, where again in the Avengers era it felt like Nick Fury walks onto a scene and goes, I am Nick Fury, this is what I do, I have put together the Avengers Initiative, this is my ship, it is the helicarrier, there's a bunch of them, they're always watching you. And it goes all the way through to Endgame where Tony Stark says, I wanted to put a shield around the Earth. And the whole time there's this kind of understanding of how being a superhero who monitors the superheroes, who answers to the government. Thaddeus Ross is still in the mix. Like there's a lot of stuff that shows up, but you understand a little bit of the structure. And ever since S.H.I.E.L.D. was destroyed in Captain America, it has felt really like both lawless and sort of like there has to be something like S.H.I.E.L.D. because the idea that it's just the CIA and Congress monitoring these people when we know that the CIA and Congress are not very effective at monitoring us, at monitoring like the actual police. So the idea that there's not a super heroic government organization that's also involved is just, it's a loss for the Marvel Cinematic Universe because it's also a loss of opportunity for cool storytelling. We're also, again, that Colby Smulders was not a life model decoy haunts me every day. The fact that we don't have Colby Smulders, that we don't have Maria Hill, that also, I don't know what we're doing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, but Victoria Hand would have been an absolute banger to have around. But I think
what you're saying even speaks to a little what NICO was saying in terms of sorry, I didn't mean to. I just completely lost my train of thought while I was changing the image. I didn't mean to jump like that.
The grandness that's missing, like the things that are like the gaps on those ideas.
And it's just a disservice to great films like that. This film is still great. And like I said, I don't think I would have been happy sitting in the theater for another 20 minutes.
Agreed.
But there's 20 minutes of ideas I would have liked to have known about. Go for it, Kevin.
I regained it. I feel like we reacted to the fact that there has been no superhero congressperson or political figure that we have really seen yet. So our assumption is Bucky is back to superheroing. Congress is out. You are positing, why wouldn't he still be a congressperson? Well, because we are told that we've never seen that before. Maybe we do need to start seeing that. And that's what I was going to say. What you're talking about and wanting to see, superheroes represented in government, that is maybe what we need to start seeing, but then we kind of need to actually walk that across the finish line and not just make all of us fill in the gaps. If Bucky is going to still be a congressperson and be a superhero and be on this Avengers team, I kind of need to better understand how that is interacting with the rest of the world in a way that was way more significant to me than the Celestial sticking out of the Pacific Ocean. That I'm not as affected by, but superheroics in government is something that's going to be affecting Daredevil, Spider-Man.
No, but
the new Avengers Tower is in Manhattan. How is that going to shake out on these stories?
But Kevin, adamantium. Full stop. It did every. That's the. It's. They did it. They did it. They
broke the adamantium barrier.
They did it. And like you just wind up being like, but no. These. It's exactly what you're both saying. Where is Shield? Where is that tangible that generates stories, characters, and new and further? And why are we just getting adamantium sticking up in the sky like a giant middle finger out of the planet?
And like, even if we're just getting adamantium sticking out of the planet, we do know that while we may not have shield for some reason, we absolutely have sword. You're telling me that like the world is mining adamantium and it's not sword that's administering the space god emergent metal? Like, you're telling me that we just trusted Harrison Ford and this random consortium of government employees to do it? No, of course it would be sword. Of course it would be the orbiting space base that has an elevator that would have the resources and the scrolls to go to go in there and do that. It simply wouldn't be, Thaddeus Ross, who can't have a panic attack.
Kevo, please go back.
Good for you, not just calling scrolls resources.
Oh my God, this image is literally all I could see the entire movie. Yeah. It's the person that doesn't want to be the superhero, who feels it's their responsibility because of the thing they've been given, who has a past they can't handle, literally standing in the same spot. It's the old guard. It's the person who represents the old idea, who is the leader by ability in the same spot. It's the result of science and genetic modification standing in the same spot. It's the one who can slip between moments like lightning, standing in the same spot. It's the one who knows that killing is sometimes the only option, standing in the same fucking spot. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
If I may only challenge Thor to make it a little bit more than just lightning. No, they are both people who at this point in their story are kind of lost and not really sure how to control their power and not really sure their place in the world. Thor at this point in the Avengers was still incredibly lost. Even after, his own movie, he was still really figuring out his place and what he was doing with his life. And so is Ava. She also, has a troubled past at this point that we got to see more of the same way that he did.
Wow, I'm overwhelmed because like one of the things that I think so much about is there is a sixth member of the Thunderbolts, and they're just not in any of these photos. And no, I don't mean Bob. Mel represented something so significant to this film for me that she wasn't secretly Melissa and she isn't secretly Songbird was a tough swallow. But I really think that one of the things that is so significant for me, I'm kind of blowing past Taskmaster, but like Taskmaster is in so many ways Clint. She is exactly that kind of hand-to-hand fighter, and they just kill her off. And notice how I didn't compare anybody to Clint in that image, because we don't have her here. Instead, we have a brilliant resource, a Coulson. And she represents the Coulson here. And it's what if Coulson was morally ambiguous under a further morally ambiguous. And I think that's what it is. TK, I don't disagree with your assessment of Valentina for so many real world reasons. But if we're going to take the conversation and say there's a bad guy and a worse guy, Nick Fury's the bad guy, she's the worst guy, so she has to be the villain. Yeah. And in the comparative, she must get the derogatory. But Mel, you know what Mel is? Mel is a whole real person in a way Coulson is just not. in phase 1 through. Oh, right, he dies there.
Yeah, and then I would argue that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson is a lot more morally ambiguous.
I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, so the thing about Valentina is, I mean, you're right. She's the worst person of the two of them, between Nick and Valentina.
Of a very specific two, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I would kill for the conversation of exactly what I said. He comes down and he's like, "What the fuck have you done?" And she goes, "Where were you? Where was she? Where were all of the spies that knew about superheroes, that had a beat on all this stuff? Where have you guys been? I've been the only one down here trying to figure out how to protect America. I did the best I could. I watched my father get murdered, and I know that if you are not the stronger person, somebody will come stomp you out." It's just an interesting conversation. Doesn't make her any better of a person, and doesn't mean that she is not villainous in a lot of ways. She's very cold-hearted. But there's, again, like, it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus too. Like, there's also something really funny and charismatic about her. I can't lose this character. I'm not ready for her.
yeah.
I'm not ready for her to be a villain, because villains have to be stopped. Like, Harrison Ford and Tim Waltz are just in a raft prison right now, and there's no way to pull them out that's going to be interesting to me. Like, because they always have to go back to the raft prison. Neither of those characters can come hang out really anymore. You can pull them out for a special use thing. I suspect they might throw Harrison Ford at, and it might even not be Harrison Ford. It might just be the CGI.
Oh, I think they're going to send Red Hulk and Void after Doom, and he's going to eat them both.
Yeah, he's going to eat them both. But again, I think it's going to be the CGI. I don't think it's going to be Harrison Ford. And again,
but that's the thing too. When it comes to stuff like this, like, I want us to start more accepting that it's a cartoon world. Yeah. Yes, they were broken out just for this story, and they're going right back to prison. I accept that. I just want to see them fight. So
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But for Valentina, like, I want a whole show. Like, I want her doing cameos on the Damage Control show, trying to nickel and dime them
in a mask, asking if she can keep it on, please.
Well, then there's that. You know, I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus so much. She's so good in this. She's so antithetical to both the MCU, but then to the other people that are antithetical to the MCU. She has the same removal from superherodom that Gwyneth Paltrow does, but without her responses when she's asked superhero questions that clearly this is a woman who does not have the answers to. She's so much funnier and so much more engaged. And I love her so much. But to take it back to Mel, such a fantastic character for exactly what you were talking about, Nico. She is morally conflicted, and even the stuff that she does that aids Valentina is never done in a, like, I want to be the bad guy, or I want to be the guy that stops the worst guy with you. Like, I'm gonna help you out. It's more like, I didn't know what to fucking do in this building when the gods showed up, so I ran upstairs and grabbed you because I literally had no idea what my other options were.
It's Dave Chappelle panicking in the passenger seat as Wayne Brady takes him on the darkest night of his life.
Yes, exactly.
Because Valentina herself is a little bit that. That's also part of what this story is. Bob himself, a lot of these ultimately, you know, Thunderbolts turned Avengers, they are people who, they're not the Tony Starks or the Steve Rogerses. They're the ones who are a little bit more human and a little bit more like, I don't know what to do. And they might pull a move that might make it worse. Or they might pull a move that will make it better. You know, sometimes their intentions are for the good. This one is a little bit too much money, but, you know, she very frequently, like you said, it's not like she wants to take over the world exactly. She just needs a little bit too much power.
You know who had too much power, not enough control, and a third of the story they deserved? Sentry. I am so glad Sentry tested so well. I read somewhere that the two characters that tested the best were Yelena and Bob. That's insane to me, because the two stars of this film, for me, were Yelena and Ava, which unfair because I am already like obsessed with this iteration of Ghost, hating every other version of Ghost that has ever existed. Oh my God. Telekinesis Jones, did you know that Christos Gage wrote DC Dark Legion?
Yeah.
that is, I was reading an interview with him about like developing all of the voices for every character, and I was like, but that's even like part of why I bring that up is because like this is not Ghost. She's a unique character. I thought she stole the show, but people really related to Bob here or reacted to Bob or something. And that's tough for me because I don't get Bob here. The character's a little flat. He's a little one note. He's a little one dimensional, and it's not the actor's fault. The actor does a phenomenal job translating that script, but the script is nondescript in too many places. That doesn't feel like a blank slate. It feels like a malleable surface, and it led me and Kevo to wondering if I believe it's Steve Ewan.
No,
I wonder if he stepped away from the role.
Oh, I see.
Because he ultimately realized that this character was not going to offer him the depth that they were saying to be different enough from being uninvincible.
Yeah,
interesting. So my thing with it was Comic Century has never made sense to me because nobody is willing to sort of sit down and get into what's going on with Bob and what's going on with the Void. And there are some writers who like to get very cerebral, and that it becomes a gesture at mental health. But that'll be one writer of the comics, and then the next writer will come in and be like, no, due to superpowers, this person has two entities inside him. One of them is the Sentry, and the other one is the very science fiction entity, the Void. And it can be a metaphor for how people feel or something, but like, this is a science fiction fantasy creature, and these elements are science fiction fantasy. Yeah, exactly. What I really appreciated about this is a guy who is a child of abuse who became a drug addict and felt absolutely worthless, and so signed himself up for a medical trial and got superpowers. But as a result of his mental illness, the superpowers have gone haywire, and the void that he feels within himself has taken over the superpowers and is doing things with them. And while, again, like, this is another thing where it's like, if this film had been a half an hour longer, we could have had that script time to not have it be so one note. I have to give I want to say it's maybe 1.5, 2 notes, because there's some incredible writing efficiency in how they convey exactly what I just said. Like, they really do convey that this is a sad guy who wanted to be better, who dreamed of better for himself, who has a void within him, and that the void is very clearly in large part the result of being a child of abuse who is a drug addict. And that misery has taken over his superpowers. And as somebody who has felt misery like that, who has felt that kind of depression, and we also see it in Yelena, so it is not entirely like disconnected from anything in the film, you can sort of vibe with him a little bit and understand how something dark came within him and took over his superpowers.
I think for me, how many notes I will feel it is will ultimately depend on how much more we will get to see of the characters and their interactions. Yeah. Because if that was something that I was thinking about this whole movie, I was kind of geared up for David Harbour for Red Guardian to die. It just kind of felt like a thing they would do. I was not expecting, this to be a renaissance for his character. Instead, we aren't really
sure. About a taskmaster.
We're not really sure what's going to happen, though. So I'm like, is Bob going to die in the course of this Avengers story that is coming up with Doom? Or are we going to get to see more of this team? And I feel like that is a lot of what I feel about this story, this team, this movie is, like we were talking about, okay, Valentina, you're our puppet now. What's that going to mean if we don't literally see another movie with this whole team fighting together? Or are we going to see these guys fighting together for several years? You, NICO, compared this to Guardians at one point to me. And I said I love that because I love Guardians, but because it is a space opera, it's so disconnected from the reality. This is connected to reality, and this is something I could see us getting more movies with this team. but we don't know what's going to happen after the multiverse saga, and if a lot of these people are going to make it, and that we will see them again. I hope we do. We have such a cast that we can kill other people and let these people survive, so there's that.
Okay, and in that same regard, I feel like the trajectory that we're on with these characters puts us in an uncomfortable position to discuss them as commodified by time, right? We know that there is this movie in February that has nothing on the schedule, but it has a slot, it's got theaters, and we still don't know anything about it. Fine. Then we know it's the two movies back to back with anything in between, a Spider-Man or something. I don't know. But there's only so much time before we are legitimately at the end of these phases where we are like head first into Doomsday and Secret Wars. And one of the things that I'm wondering the closer we get is, are we looking at an age of dramatically lazy storytelling, which I don't believe it is, but I'm willing to hear it? Or are we looking at an age of, I don't know, guys, maybe you don't always have to look at porn. Maybe you can just read some erotica and get yourself off. Like, how much of this is asking us to fill in the places that we're not seeing things? I'm willing to do it, but I need them to set the standard that asks me to.
I really love that, because one of the things that I even clocked during this was before they even said Walker's wife left him.
Yep.
I clocked a flirtatious moment between him and Ava, and I was like, that could go somewhere. That could just be meant for fans to enjoy and fill in their own blanks. You know, there are so many things where, you know, people like to write their own stories for these characters, and it's also for the creators to make sure that they feed in enough without overriding what a lot of different people want. That is all part of it too. You should feel encouraged, because giving you too much takes away some freedom that you have to read in your own interpretations to the characters and what you might see from them.
And again, I can't stress enough, this tool that we have in our tool belt that this fucking company will not use. Do more special presentations, you motherfuckers.
Amen.
Yeah.
Again, like a S.H.I.E.L.D. one to talk about restarting S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's a Julia Louis-Dreyfus vehicle where it's just her going like, well, I can't run the CIA anymore. It's time to start up S.H.I.E.L.D. And, you know, she calls up Nick Fury down from space and says, we're getting the band back together. And, you know, they cryogenically unfreeze Dum Dum Dugan, and it's revealed that Colby Smulders was an LMD. Just do it. Nico, I take your point, and I think you're correct. Like, I'll do a lot of the legwork, but you got to give me something. And I also am not naive. I understand that films are very expensive, and you expect return on your investment. You already have my Disney Plus dollars, 26 of them every goddamn month, and I know I'm not the only one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll get something in Ironheart. I don't know. We never know where this stuff is coming from. But
you're getting Shea Coulee.
What's that?
You're getting Shea Coulee.
I was head of S.H.I.E.L.D. Shea Coulee. I dream every day about how fun Werewolf by Night was. I thought it was just, and again, it felt like such good value for my money. That this service that I'm paying for, where I know I'm a bunch of the stuff I'm getting, I know the back catalog, I really know what I'm paying for. A little gifty gift every now and then, I don't think it's so fucking crazy, especially when you are doing this, when you are doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you are doing serialized storytelling on a scale untold before. Like, if you actually want to get real, there have to start being other modules involved in doing this. And again, I look at like video games would be an option. If we're doing transmedia storytelling, let's go for it entirely. But I really do think the special presentations present such an opportunity. And again, I'm willing to go low budge. Like I'm willing to do Julia Louis-Dreyfus behind a desk. I'm willing to do damage control. I do not. Werewolf by Night, one of the reasons it was so amazing is because it was shockingly full of action. I would take so much less action than that and be really happy, especially if it could really build the universe.
By all means, Kevin.
It's why I lamented a lot of people giving the feedback of there was too much Marvel going on at once, because I always point to the fact that it's because there was a backup, and so they had to deluge because there had been a backup, but also I feel like they got the wrong message, and that's not the audience's fault. They should be better at receiving the feedback and really analyzing what they should be doing. It's not that there was too much necessarily, it's that they weren't putting the content out smartly, which is what we're pointing to. We want more things like you're pointing to, which is specials. We didn't need, insanely long form content. We were okay with stuff like miniseries or special presentations or TV movies or a lot of different things, but they were really locked into specific formats and only giving us content in those formats. And that's, I think, what we were also responding to. They weren't free with how they were able to tell their stories. And that's what we're looking for, because there are so many options in the digital age.
And for me, you can't say that you're the leader in the industry and then just do everything everyone else does, but do it with more money behind you. That doesn't make you the leader in the industry. That makes you the most overblown in the industry. So if you want to lead. If you want to be a gas bag, well, then continue to spend too much money on films that don't need it. This was not that. This was clever. This was well thought. This had all of the energy put into it that a film deserves. And whereas The Avengers was a very intentional accident, this was accidentally intentional. This was, The Avengers is... Everybody's like, wow, can you believe it worked? Of course it worked, because they put $400 million into making it work, and they sacrificed everything they had, and they made every VFX artist go without sleep for weeks. And so, of course, they got what they wanted. It was a singular moment. And if you think about it dollar for dollar, I don't know that Endgame did the same thing. I don't know that Endgame was the same magic. It might have done better, but it had so much more power behind it, whereas Avengers did so much of it in a grassroots way. This is just saying this is the result of your grassroots, baby.
For frame of reference, this had a price tag of 180 million. Not like but yeah.
It's unbelievable, because one of the things that I often think too many, I guess, productions forget when you're making a film is it really starts with the acting. The writing is great. The script is great. The directing is great. I really hear all of that, but I might be honest with you. I don't know that the direction in My Cousin Vinny is what I think about all the time. I don't know that I think that the line, "But wait, there's more," is the greatest line of all time. But it's the way Marissa Tomei says it. It's the way Joe Pesci actually shouts, everything. It's the way Ralph Macchio is gorgeous, always. It's so many things. But it is that this woman, Florence Pugh, literally elevated superhero movies in a way that few have done outside of Robert Downey Jr.
She literally did this. This is real. She insisted on doing this stunt and was denied 4 times, but insisted. I sometimes think stuff like this is cuckoo bananas, but, this stunt especially, I kind of get, and her wanting to show her mettle and do something bold that helps her understand her character better. I think it's amazing, and I really love everything she's been bringing to the character and to the MCU so far.
So, all right, I think we're kind of through so much of this film. I feel like I didn't give John Walker enough credit. He played an unlikable character really likably. I love him in the Monsterverse. I like him here. Don't love the taco shield. Wish he had maybe gotten a new shield made from it.
Yeah, that was a bummer seeing 14 months later and he still has it.
I wanted the diamond shield.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah. There were a lot of options.
I don't know about you guys, but this is the most excited I've been about a Marvel Universe movie in a really, really long time. And I even want to take it a step further and be we have so much more to talk about now because we've got What If, which is multiverse. We've got X-Men 97, which is alternate universe in some capacity. This was Deadpool and Wolverine exciting times 5 with so fewer of the bells and whistles. This was the fanciest abacus ever. It relied on just the things you know, numbers and the ability to physically count. It wasn't shiny. It actually, frankly, some of the special effects in the astral world were not that much better than Evil Dead when trees hugged people. Like, some of it looked fucking theme park cheap. And it worked because these actors sold it like it was the only thing that mattered. I'm entranced. I'd said this was my favorite, and then TK reminded me how good Shang-Chi was, and so I guess they're tied really for me in my head. But this is the most fun I've had at a Marvel movie since probably Ragnarok.
Yeah. I also said to you that I thought maybe Eternals edged it out for me, and what I also said to you was I think this might be better, but for me, Eternals was just something special to me. It's something that I liked. I also, the Marvels was also really special to me, but I'm 100% certain that this was better than the Marvels. It just made better use of its resources and decisions. And like I said, I said that, and I wasn't sure how to put my finger on why this was better than the Marvels, but I said it at the beginning of this broadcast. The teams thing, man. The Marvel universe is an ensemble universe, and it was very cool in 2009 through 2012 when we got movies establishing our big characters, because we were also getting all this stuff for the first time. But it's a little less easy now, and I even look at a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine. I look at Cap 4, which the last time we talked about a Marvel property I had not seen, and I finally watched, and I think it is the worst Marvel movie ever made. I think it's one of the worst movies ever made. I hated it so much, I don't know what to do with myself. But also, it's just a very single person situation. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this was a fantastic movie. It was one of the best Marvel movies in a really long time. And a big thing, I think, is the team, man. The team is just so exciting to me.
Yeah, I'm, really in my feels about the MCU right now, obviously. The fact that we are closing out Phase 5 and entering Phase 6 this summer, and still don't know what Phase 6 is going to be fully populated by. We have 4 films there on the schedule right now. We have Fantastic Four in July, and then next summer we have Doomsday in May and Spider-Man in July. And then we have Secret Wars in May 2027. But we don't really know if or what is going to be filling those gaps. I'm really with you. I love teams. I feel like the Marvels really did a lot of that team stuff. Maybe if Valkyrie had done a little bit more than just show up and take refugees, if she'd gotten to fight a little bit, that would have been something more. Because, yeah, the fact is we've established a expansive universe, and so we can just have people pop up. That was one of the things that I loved the most about this movie. I felt like you didn't need to see a lot of the properties that the people who were in this movie were from. You needed an understanding of the MCU. You probably almost definitely needed to see the Avengers to really get what was going on here. But as long as you understand the Marvel universe is something that is ongoing and a living thing, they really filled in a lot of the gaps about who everyone was, where they needed to, and filled in the plot points where they needed to in a way that I did find so refreshing, and I felt like they didn't really waste a lot of time. Like you said, if anything, they could have just probably added more. Whereas Captain America Brave New World, I really didn't hate, but that's on the strength of the cast entirely and nothing to do with the story. It's just, it was cool seeing those people. But like we said at the top of the broadcast, you blew the fact that Red Hulk was the entire plot and he doesn't show up until literally the very end of the movie. That was weird. It was so many weird choices, whereas this kept so much to the vest. that I wasn't expecting so many things and was able to enjoy so much of it for that reason.
It's also really fascinating that we now basically have a Yelena Belova trilogy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, it's sort of like with Sentry. I thought the movie was really concise in explaining exactly what Yelena's problem was. And so when you get to her emotional crux, when she's crying to her father and saying, "Daddy, I'm so alone." Beautiful moment, by the way. Florence Pugh, you're just a fucking great actor. You know, the movie on its own, standalone, if you've never seen anything else, you know that's why, you know why she's feeling that way. You get that she's been struggling. But if you have watched Black Widow, sorry, Jesus. If you watch Black Widow and you've watched Hawkeye, you really have watched her journey from having everything that she wanted, that she thought she wanted, like coming from a very traumatized, abused childhood, to losing everything, to folding herself into not just the world of superheroes, but the world of her sister and her family, and using that as a way to process grief, and deciding to become part of the world, to when you get to this film, you realize she made that decision, but then kind of flopped. And is in almost a worse place. And it's just this very beautiful meditation on the fact that, like, growing up is not linear. You know, processing grief is not linear. Making good choices doesn't always lead to good outcomes. There's an incredible in-depth story told for Yelena over 3 different Marvel properties. And it's really rewarding if you've been following it the whole time. But like I said, I'm just incredibly impressed with the efficiency of basically all of the narratives here. Again, like, you don't really get much from John either. You see he's kind of a dick and a shitty dad, and then he talks about his family like he has them, and then somebody goes, "They left you." But that's it. Like, he never has a conversation with his wife. He never says, "I'm going to save the world and you're going to see I'm a hero." He never says, "I did it and I'm going to get them back." To me, yeah, exactly. To me, like, it as with Bob, is it a little one note? Technically, yes, but you only can make your movie a good, fast-paced 2 hours, or you're getting into the 2 to 3 hour mark, and then you might be boring people. So I think they made some incredible writing decisions in order to give everybody backstory and pathos and emotion, but really to maybe choose to leave out some stuff that, again, Nico, as you pointed out, like, the audience can do the work. It's not always going to be literary perfection. There maybe was 5 more minutes to add to the film that could have done something, but I'm very impressed with how they chose to prune in order to make this a really tight 2 hours.
Because the other thing they could have done is they could have done a Disney Plus series where we saw each one of these characters, including Taskmaster, get a really complete 1-episode story that leads into the film. And then the film would have had to pay off those characters too.
Yeah.
And then the film would have needed to have been 3.5 hours to make a 2-hour film, only 2 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's diminishing returns, like Bob's outfit, just diminishing returns.
Oh my God, Nico, I fucking hate you, because I was just about to say, I feel like I'd look really good in that outfit.
You know what? You would look really cute in those colors. You would look really cute in those fits.
I just want a nice pair of, like, corduroys that are a little free-flowing. You know, I don't know. It might be too hot for that outfit now.
Oh, yeah. You know, the other big thing that this movie did that we kind of do need to address, the ugly baby in the room, and it's weird because it's this baby's christening, technically, is the Fantastic Four.
It spoiled the entire Fantastic Four movie in a way that only Marvel knows how to. I swear there's some gremlin that lives at the top of Marvel decision making.
They think they didn't, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, but, like, this is the same. I mean, it's Free Comic Book Day today, and, like, on the one hand, my thing is, like, of course we always know that nobody's ever dead forever except for Gwen Stacy and Uncle Ben, but it's Free Comic Book Today. We're in the middle of One World Under Doom. One World Under Doom is, of course, at its core, a Fantastic Four story, a Fantastic Four versus Doctor Doom story. And Free Comic Book Day previews what's next for the Fantastic Four, and they're all there, and nothing is weird or unexplained. So basically, you know, and of course, I figured they would come out of it fine. Sometimes it's not even like, don't spoil it because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's, don't talk to me about the thing that's 2 months away for 2 months. Like, just let me live in this moment right now. Marvel does this with the comics constantly. Please watch Nico's and my coverage of like anything Marvel Comics related. This comes up for us so much that they just will tell you this event is the most important event we've ever done. And then you buy into it and say, okay, it's the most important event you've ever done. I'm buying the books. And then immediately they go, get excited, start saving up now so you can buy the thing that we're doing 3 months from now, where all the characters that we told you are in jeopardy now are present. So you know they're fine. So what are the stakes here? And God love them, but seeing the Fantastic Four ship at the end in the post-credit sequence for this, it just takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails of this movie, because it tells us that no matter what happens, they're gonna do something at post Galactus and get a ship out into our universe. And I think we can basically extrapolate what's gonna happen.
What if it's an empty ship with a message? What
Sure.
if it's a message in a bottle?
Sure.
Or the other thing that I keep hoping,
And it could be different than these four too.
because the thing that I'm hoping, because I'm agreeing with you that they really did, you know, to expand and sort of explain the idea. The Fantastic Four famously were the first people in the Marvel universe to come up against Galactus and this idea of a cosmic threat, and they did the noble thing. But what if instead they find a universe to send Galactus to? What if they're literally sending Galactus after us to save their own skin? What if this is Maker, not Reed Richards? And like, what if they manage to make us feel like chumps? The problem I have is it is more likely that they are just sort of playing it all out very plainly for us, very cleanly for us, but we have no reason to know that this movie isn't going to show us that this Reed is nuts and this isn't his 8th time trying to have this family, and that's why he's a little older than them. Like, I doubt Marvel will have these sorts of plays that I'm handing them, call me, but they could. And if they did, this could be one of the greatest shock values of all time. If not, I am in for a lovely period piece, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right. I could absolutely be proven wrong. And if this is something really cool, so much the better. I just feel like it's not. I just feel like this is probably like Fantastic. Fantastic Four will end. They will defeat Galactus, send Galactus away, and then they will somehow be presented with Doom, and they will go, well, we gotta help out the multiverse, and they're gonna hop in their ship, and they're gonna take off and go to what Marvel is calling 616. Which I hate them for. They're going to go to the main Marvel universe, and that's what this is. And if I'm wrong, that will be so awesome.
I have a wildly different interpretation that I don't even want to say because I find so dramatic. I don't want to, in case I am correct, I would feel horrible saying it on air because but I think there are many interpretations. But no matter what the interpretations, I think showing the ship does take a lot of wind out of July.
Yeah.
Part of me is still really excited, but yeah, no matter what, we are led to believe there is an entity or entities in that ship, probably people, probably the team or team members. It could be NICO's theory. It could be one that I will share with you guys backstage. But there's a lot of... It could just be Franklin. They could be sending him like Superman in a ship as a baby. We don't know. But part of why I keep pointing out the schedule and where there's gaps and where there's only so much time. Doomsday started filming last month. That's part of why they did the chairs. And it comes out in a year. How much time do we have to tell whatever the story is going to be, whatever it will end up being? It's how I feel about Thunderbolts. It's how I feel about Fantastic Four. As excited as I am to move on to the next saga, whatever it will be, what work is still left to do to wrap the multiverse saga up?
I'm braced. The other thing that I am very aware of, though, is you can only go so far into the woods before you're coming out of them, right?
Yeah.
You can only go so far into an idea before you're coming out the other side of it. And this film did not have Captain America. It did not have Iron Man. Sure, it had characters that are results of them. But, we've made a lot of jokes about how at times it does feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, more than the Marvel Comic Universe, is just really hoping to film a Theseus us all the way to the end. This movie really said we can make a totally different ship. It can represent the same things, but it's a totally different ship. And it makes me realize that that's been what they've been trying to do this whole time, but it maybe is our own adhesive beholdenness to our nostalgia that makes it difficult. So for me, I would really love a moment of Nick Fury leading Sam Wilson's New Avengers versus Valentina leading Yelena's New Avengers
with a Z.
Against each other, but then realizing that they have to unite together against whatever they're up against. And it's what KEVO said. There's not enough time.
They have to unite together to stop Maria Hill's Young Avengers, featuring Kamala Khan. That I will say. So to your point, they can give us these amazing references. They can give us actually new stuff, but the Marvel Universe is best when it uses the stuff that it has built. These were all characters that they created that we saw on screen that we cared about to some degree. And it was such an interesting mix because, again, this is the third in the Yelena trilogy, but Ava is barely in that second. And she's barely in Ant-Man and Wasp. She's very poorly used, but the character seems really cool, and that's a cool power. That's a cool power set. You can see cool things happening there. But are we a decade away from that movie? We're close. From Ant-Man and Wasp.
I mean, it was the movie right before Endgame, wasn't it?
I'm sure it's close to that.
Looking at, it was.
Yeah, right, because they snap or they disappear and then
7 years.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a while. We haven't seen her at all since. She's not been in anything. So this is a really fascinating mix. And Taskmaster, same thing. Basically not seen at all. Fascinating mix of characters that have been in a lot. Bucky, Yelena, characters who have barely been there at all, and new characters. It's a really good marshaling of the resources that a giant machine like this churns out. And my only regret is, Florence Pugh and Yelena Belova are truly the Jeff Winger of the Marvel Universe. They have chemistry with everybody, but her chemistry with Haley Steinfeld was so good and so funny, and we are I guess we're calling them champions now, so they're not Young Avengers, so it doesn't really matter, but it'll be really interesting to see. I'm bummed that they won't be together unless somehow all of those characters get folded into the New Avengers, but that also go for it.
I love the idea of them being not opposing necessarily, but coexisting leaders of their teams. And I would love the opportunity for there to be crossover with stories like that.
Yeah. And I will say, given that it's Kamala that's starting it up, it does feel like that's that's Nick's team. That's slightly Nick's initiative.
Right.
So it'll be
Dibs.
interesting. What's that?
He's got dibs.
Yeah, well, I think he's given her that tablet that she's using to go grab them all. So it'll be interesting to see if Sam's team is entirely its own thing, if Sam is maybe like the mentor that is leading the team that Kamala puts together. Where does Nick show up? Where does Valentina show up? A conversation between Samuel L. Jackson and Julia Louis-Dreyfus on Marvel Universe topics and like those two actors playing their characters opposite each other would be a gift to the world of the MCU. I mean, I just truly hope somebody is sitting there figuring out a way to pitch that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I do like that the post-credit scene nerfed Bob.
I only don't like it because it completely nerfed him.
I agree.
I would have liked if he said, I only do it for emergencies only, just in case.
It's dangerous. He could come out.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. But I do agree because it was immediately something that the comics relied too heavily on him for. And then he just wasn't special. Like the comics spent a huge amount of time in books being like, this is more than Superman. This is the Golden God. He's so powerful and so important. And then he would just kind of like show up and punch like everybody else. And it was like, but you made me invest. And then we just do another stupid storyline. And then he'd make Emma Frost say the worst line in the history of Marvel Universe writing. I'm glad they didn't do that here. I'm glad that he didn't suit up, but I would have liked just something where he was like, if it gets that bad, I can help.
The only other thing I can think to say about this movie that I didn't really get to say, and I think it's in part because it's even hard to say, this movie is going to be judged by its fandom, unfortunately. With a movie like Guardians, it got annoying, but not too annoying because people still believe that the best parts of Guardians were the Walkman and the friendship.
Yes.
With Dark Knight got really horrible because like people believe the best part of it was Joker blowing up hospitals, and like that's not the lesson. If the lesson here is family is what you make it, and when you promise to take care of somebody, it means you're going to take care of them, then we're good. If the lesson here is and rip off Bucky's arm and beat him in the head with it, or blonde hair makes you more powerful when you would look really weird and washed out with it.
I think it's what made the climax so necessary and what made not only non-violence, but the entire team making the potentially suicidal choice to join her and try and use non-violence in this situation.
Agreed.
Rather than just use their fists. I would love to say there's no way anyone can misinterpret that, but people find a way, don't they? But I will at least say they tried, and that is a huge deal, and that is a huge part of this story. You really can't describe the story or its climax without really confronting that that's what it was about. So I really hope that helps at least. Like moments like this are what the movie is actually about, and it's kind of hard to deny.
Anybody got any final thoughts on this big bad movie that we seem to all really love so much?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. And now I'm just waiting for Fantastic Four.
I'm bummed that I saw the first Fantastic Four movie, the second one. I guess I never saw the third one, but I'll see this fourth one.
You never saw the Kate Mara?
Oh no, I did. I was making a joke that there had to be that this is the fourth Fantastic Four movie, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so maybe this one really will be fantastic because we saw that one and hated it.
Yeah, that one was really bad.
It's just
it had pieces that I liked, but that weren't. But the movie was not good. I can't defend
Trank,
the
right?
pieces I liked.
Josh Trank.
Yeah, that's Tranktastic.
Trank, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think though the other thing that I'm really, really hoping for from the future of this movie is just it's going to sound dumb, but the right to love it. I just hope that this continues to stay a happy, pure, cool movie.
That it appreciates.
You know, TK, who was your favorite though? Like of the peoples?
I mean, the basic bitch answer is Yelena, but then I think it's Bob.
Interesting.
Yeah, I relate to Bob. I feel like I do not have the same past as Bob, but I have that feeling. Like I would worry if I went through that test process. I would worry not just about my medical health, but my mental health. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Gosh, Lewis Pullman, cute. Such a weird fucking looking cute boy. I would like to give him kisses.
He is super cute.
KEVO, who's your fave?
I'm not even sure at this moment. I really love TK's points. I really felt like Bob was an incredibly great showing, and I'm excited and hopeful for the future of that character. Because one of the things I really loved is, again, the message of this movie. It's so easy to do a story like Brightburn, or do a story like Invincible, or a story like The Boys, and have this just go awful. But I really love, especially something that is a blockbuster with the power of Marvel Studios and Disney behind it, instead being a story of saying people can reach out and help you. And if you accept their help, maybe you can work together to make it better. And I think that's great. I think it's amazing. And I think it's not just for Bob, but I love that they did that for Walker, who, you didn't need to see Falcon and Winter Soldier to get this story, but you could have, and it really builds on what his story was. Yelena, David Harbour, why can't I think of Alexei? I always forget what his name is. All of them, everyone. Bucky, we've been watching Bucky since 2011, 14 years we've been watching that character. And so seeing all of these characters be used in this way and be used in a story that could be a lot more grim and have a lot darker of a response, instead be about let's be better together. Maybe
better together is the name of the game for this. I'm so grateful we had this, and I'm so grateful that we had this team, right? Because something we've talked about a lot lately is that we would love to go back and update some of our early HTML, and we would love to retalk about that. And that's one conversation. That's a conversation between me and KEVO, and I love that conversation because it is from our perspective that we've built in this way that's one brand of harmony. But getting to talk about this with TK, it adds this other layer of this harmony. It adds this other part of this conversation. And TK, one of the things that I love is that I think you saw the first 3.5 phases before I knew you, before you were a part of this family. And so you're bringing such a uniquely different, focused opinion on your first however many years of comics, your first ever years of being a film fan, which you are literally a film scholar, and then to take it a step further, you have these unique opinions on the MCU. So when I get to hear you and KEVO, someone whose opinions grew alongside mine, that I fed him the comics, and then I hear someone whose opinions grew so independent of mine, but has the same love of the comics built in. There's something about the three of us that I really love getting to spend this time talking about this brand of comic book in the MCU. But I also was so glad, TK, because something else we share is we share our comic feed. And you had mentioned Free Comic Book Day. I managed to run to my local shop, The Geekery, for like 1 minute, literally walked in, walked out, and I did a comic book a couple of years ago. I was part of Young Men in Love, and so I did a signing there. And so when I walked in for Free Comic Book Day, they were so sweet, and it was so nice. Picked up a couple of Lorcana decks, picked up some Free Comic Book Day books, and The Geekery in, I want to say it's Matawan, New Jersey, but Google it. Geekery, New Jersey, you can't miss it. But there wouldn't be a Thunderbolts without Free Comic Book Day kind of stuff. TK, I think you did some Free Comic Book Daysing as well.
I did. I popped up to Coast City Comics here in Portland, and yeah, just grabbed my books, had a great time. Got the first issue of Kid Juggernaut. Excited to see Emily Kim's take on the character. Happy Free Comic Book Day, everybody.
Happy Free Comic Book Day, everybody.
And for KEVO, there was a Gargoyles comic. Definitely everybody go grab the Gargoyles Free Comic Book Day book.
Oh,
Right?
that's so exciting to know. I've been so worried about that title since our coverage in October, which is something you can go check out on our channel. We covered the history of Gargoyles as a TV show and where it came as a comic, so I'm excited to check that out and catch up.
And I cannot wait to do more of this. We've been doing so much Drag Race lately, though. We really love getting to do that with you guys. We've got Eurovision coming up, for which we will certainly be serving Kant. Really excited about that. Fantastic Four when that happens. I'm sure there's other things we're going to talk about. I never shut up. Anybody got anything else they want to throw in?
No, sir.
All right. Well, guys, until we come back to do this, we do HTML. That's Husbands Talking, more or less, as I mentioned. X is for podcast. X is for show. Check us out. Like, subscribe, comment. We love you. We think you're beautiful. We think you're cool. Unless you want us to think you're dumb and you want us to neg you, that's hot too. Then you're a dummy, and we love you anyway.
And we'll do it because we love you. So
we will.
hate you because we love you.
Yep, you know, you're a pain pig and we're cash masters. KEVO, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Filthy Pig Boys can find me at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
Hey, TK, follow that up.
Yeah, no, I really can. You can find me at TK Accidental. I'll be thinking about that one for a week or two. Nico, where are you at?
NICO Action, NICOACTION, NICO Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. We love doing this stuff for you guys. And like I said, comment, like, and subscribe. We think you guys are the world. But if you guys want to do something for us, you guys can do us a favor. Stay safe, be brave, and also remember, who you are today is amazing, who you are tomorrow is incredible. So we can't wait to be there with you. So evolve daily, and we'll see you then.